Mr. Buffalo study corner. Let's stampede to success. Hello students and sentence slingers. I'm Mr. Buffalo. You also might know me as Mr. Benyon or Mr. Jordan, depending on where I taught you, if you're one of my students. Welcome to Mr. Buffalo's Study Corner, where we stampede into success. Now today, we're breaking down 5 powerful quotes from Macbeth that you can use for almost any character. Whether you're talking about Macbeth or Lady Macbeth, Banquo or the witches, these quotes are like Swiss Army knives. So, let's go! Okay, so let's dive in. The first quote that I wanted to look at is from the very beginning of the play. It's also repeated numerous times in the play as well. And that quote is, "Fair is foul and foul is fair." Trying to do a witch impression. It's coming across like the monarch from the Venture Bros. I don't know, good impression? Drop in the comments if you think that was a good impression of the monarch from the Venture Bros, this guy. Let me know. I think it was good. Not very good for a witch, but I probably wouldn't get cast in in Macbeth as one of the witches. But anyway, fair is foul and foul is fair. Hopefully you can see that on the screen there. Classic line, spoken by the witches, but it applies to everyone in the play. I'll jump back to that in a moment, actually, about lines from different people. Think about this, though. It applies to everyone. Interestingly, it might not actually apply to the witches themselves, but it does apply to everyone else. You know, Macbeth, for example, looks very noble, particularly at the beginning of the play. He's described as brave, noble, strong, etc. But he turns into a tyrant. He turns into what might be considered evil, possibly, or at least immoral. Lady Macbeth, she acts like a gracious hostess. She's very charming, elegant to those around her, but she's actually plotting a murder, pushing her husband into it, potentially. We'll go into whether or not she's actually responsible or more of a catalyst for Macbeth's own needs, desires, and wants. But we'll go into that later in another video. Even Banquo, for example, who seems like the good, moral, standardized character, actually is also tempted by ambition. It sets the tone, for a world where nothing is as it seems. Particularly useful if you look at fair and foul, they're opposites. What's the word that we use for opposites? The literary device that the mark scheme will want you to use? Well, there's 3 that you could use. Juxtaposition is the one I like to go with because it's structure. So you could always throw that in. You've ticked off your structure box then. Paradox is another one that you could use. It is a paradox, technically. Shakespeare was very fond of using paradoxes in his plays. Possibly you could argue that it's contrast as well. It's more likely to come under language and linguistics than it comes under structure. Just a bonus point on that as well. If we are thinking about lines being spoken by other characters applying to other characters, when you do a character question, if you're in AQA, there will be possibly be a character question. If you're doing EdXL, there will be a character question. Now, the quotes that you use for the characters, it doesn't have to come from the characters themselves, providing that it still applies to that character. So a very good example of this is when Macbeth says, "I have scorpions in my mind, dear wife," or "there are scorpions in my mind, dear wife." I could use that to talk about Lady Macbeth and the idea of her possibly injecting the poison into Macbeth. I could also possibly even prescribe it to society as a whole if I'm looking at a theme question. But yeah, you don't have to necessarily use only quotes from the specific character about whom you are speaking. And the next quote is directly from Lady Macbeth, And she says, "Look like the innocent flower, but be the serpent under't." Strong quote. This is a good quote. Examiners, mark schemes, they love that quote. Get it in your mind. Stick it in your noggin. Lady Macbeth says this, but honestly, it applies to everybody. Again, this is one of those Swiss Army knife quotes that's just awesome to have in your mind. You could pull it out from wherever. Obviously, remember that Edexcel or AQA, you're going to have a section of the play that you have to analyse, and then usually you're free to analyse the rest of the play as well. Just bear that in mind. It's possible. If you get this quote, brilliant. If you don't, have it stored ready. So Lady Macbeth says it, but it applies to everyone. It definitely applies to Macbeth because she's saying it to Macbeth. Again, what we spoke about in point number 1. It applies to the witches, definitely applies to the witches. We could even argue that it possibly even applies to Malcolm by the end of the play and his character development. It's all about appearance versus reality, which is a massive theme throughout the play. We just looked at it in the first quote. A huge thing. Every major character hides their true intent at some point in the play. Trust no one. X-Files. Macbeth Files. X-Files. Someone come up with a joke about that? Drop it in the comments. Drop a better dad joke than I could in the comments, please. Now the third quote comes from Macbeth himself, and that is, "Stars, hide your fires, let not light see my black and deep desires." Apologies for the Scottish accent there. Macbeth says this when he starts to think about killing Duncan. Okay, but black and deep desires, come on, it's a mood across the whole cast. It's not just Macbeth. It's all about ambition and guilt and shame. This quote is perfect for exploring the inner conflict behind the choices of all the cast, of all the characters. It's not just about Macbeth. It's very deeply about Macbeth, but it isn't just about him. That feeling of the black hiding the dark and the terrible things, it's a common theme throughout the play. So just keep that one in mind as well. And the next quote, can you guess what it is yet? Possibly, if I'm holding this. If you've read Macbeth and you paid attention in class, I'm looking at some of the students at the back, you should know this. It's the soliloquy. It's his Macbeth's out, brief candle soliloquy. I love this quote. He probably didn't. I don't think he had raspberry flavored candles at the time, but really, really nice quote for Macbeth himself. Is near the end of the play. It's just after, spoiler alert, Lady Macbeth kills herself. But it's a cracking quote for mortality, futility, regret. Huge. And obviously those aren't just things that Macbeth himself feels. Think about Lady Macbeth. He's actually referencing Lady Macbeth's suicide. He's referencing that she should have died hereafter. Hereafter, as he says. It's not the time for her to die. It should have happened later. And that candle represents life, how it's short and fragile. It works for Lady Macbeth. She starts to fade from power. She becomes this withered shell of a person who's just obsessed with trying to get out the blood on her hands, even though there's no blood there. She's just essentially going crazy from guilt, from regret, and from overambition, you could argue as well. Could even link it to Banquo or Duncan if you want to say about their lights being snuffed out, also would work. I have seen that used before in a marks game. Did get positive responses. They both got grade 8s or 9s. So for that question, just bear in mind, when I talk about that, I'm talking specifically about each question. Please remember that one. And also, surely the visual helped you. I held a candle, man. This has to be in your brain now. Out, brief candle. Easy quote. Get it in there. Light the candle, smell it. Keep it in your brain. Here's another one. Let's see if you can guess the quote before I say it. Obviously, this is just a bread knife, but hopefully some of you have guessed it. Is this a dagger which I see before me? Macbeth's talking about hallucination, guilt, ambition. This line is when Macbeth's doing backflips in his mind. He's thinking about the murder. He's thinking about what he has done and what he can do and what he will do. Symbolism-wise, the dagger does stand for temptation. It stands for violence. I like to use it when you're writing about mental instability, fate, and how ambition itself distorts reality. So again, we come into that territory where you don't just have to use it for Macbeth himself. You can also talk about ambition. Ambition, remember, is a theme of Macbeth. It does come up in questions. Don't remember if it was the question last year. Drop it in the comments. Does anybody know the question from last year? I will research it, but drop it in the comments too. Drop it in the comments. The transparent dagger, moving towards him. And also, if you can, go on YouTube and watch some different interpretations of that scene. Some of the directors choose to use a physical knife. They choose to have it dangling in front of the screen, Macbeth grabbing at it and missing. Some choose not to have it at all and just let the audience interpret Macbeth's own hallucinations, just let him seem possibly crazier. If we're not sharing that, maybe could actually seem more insane, I guess. But yeah, that's another quote. So, is this a dagger which I see before me? Very, very important. Visualize, analyze. All right, so there you have it. Those are 5 killer, pun intended, Macbeth quotes that you can use for almost any essay. The trick, don't just remember them, explode them. Okay, talk about meaning, theme, technique, why it matters, what the author wants to do, and what the audience feels. Okay, so visualize, capitalize, explode the quotes. Visualize, conceptualize, explode the quotes. Comment your favorite quote below. Are there any other quotes that you think could work for different characters, for the whole play itself? Comment your favorite quote below. And if you want me to break that one down in a future video, I've got your back. I will do that. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and I will see you soon in Mr. Buffalo's Study Corner. Until then, keep charging forward.